You're now listening to the 11:30 podcast. Enjoy the show.
Nasty, hateful, insane nation that ever existed.
Yo, what it do, everybody? It's your man Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. I'm back at it, you guys, man. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the 11:30 podcast. What's goody, man? Everybody doing out there? Appreciate everyone tuning back in, man, for another episode of the podcast show. It's going to be a great one for everyone tuning in on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, if you're new to the show, definitely hit that subscribe button down below, like it, comment, man, share it, and don't forget to follow and tell everyone about the 11:30 podcast. But it's going to be a great one, man. Here this week on this week's episode of the podcast show, got a great guest, you guys. Pryia Kumar, you guys. Pryia Kumar. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing her name right. For real, I don't want to be messing it up. She's a business coach, entrepreneur, transformation coach, blogger, author, just to name a bit, you guys. And also, she's a marathon runner. For real, it's going to be fun. But we're going to be chatting with her here on this week's episode of the 11:30 podcast show. She's standing right now. We ain't gonna waste no more time. We're gonna get into the show. How's it going?
Great. It's a great day today. So I am excited to be here and talking about money and everything that goes with money, both the positive and the negative.
Yes. It's been a blessed one. How life treating you though?
Oh, great. I couldn't be more grateful for everything that has been going on with this year and the last few years. I feel like the pandemic was really a blessing for me and everything that it has done for me. So I am just extremely grateful that all my hard work is paying off. So
Okay. I dig it. A lot of people, had a lot of ups and downs throughout the pandemic. A lot of people struggled, and a lot of people really, came up and, turned a lot of things around too. But that's dope. I appreciate you coming through here on the 11:30 podcast show. But for my listeners and everyone, before we get started, before we talk about money, tell everyone, about yourself and how you get to this point right now. Just, about yourself.
yeah, well, hi everyone. My name is Pryia Kumar and I am a profit coach. I focus on financial trauma. So I talk about money a lot, but all other aspects of it as well. I know that financial planning and all of that's very important, but we forget that the reason we don't focus on building ourselves and we can't get ourselves to really get into the planning stage for the future is because it's our financial trauma that's holding us back. So I do a lot of that with my clients, both my business clients and my individual clients. I also partner with nonprofits where I do financial literacy classes with them and really help them rebuild their mindset and what their has been when it comes to finances. I'm also a marathon runner. I am a writer. I write articles for several magazines. Most of them are financial magazines. We don't read it because it's nothing exciting. It's not gossip and it's none of that. And my goal is to run a marathon in every state. So that is something that I am currently working on. I'll be running my third state this year, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Okay, that's dope. I really dig that. How did everything, begin for you though, for being a, transformation coach and also a business coach? Did because you said the pandemic was, a really good time for you. Everything sort of turned around for you. So how did, everything, work out for you and you're starting in your journey of being a business coach?
Well, I feel like that was the time that a lot of us really got to focus on ourselves because all the distractions were almost removed instantly, right? We were everything was closed, so you only had yourself that you were spending time with. And that was the time when I was really looking at, like, how can I be more purposeful, how can I do more, and how can I bring my personal experiences, combine it with my professional experience, and create something that will make me feel more purposeful and be able to help other people. And I'm not talking about just becoming a healer in a sense, because that's what we started seeing a lot of. Nothing wrong with that, right? Like, we need that in our lives. That's just another pillar. But I have always been the person who always wanted to know the energy of money, how it moves, and why is it that we have such a toxic relationship with it. We know it's a necessity, we know that it's something that we need in our lives, we know that it's something that we need to have in order to grow, but there's also so much guilt and shame. We don't have a loving relationship with finances, with money, and that causes us to be in a place of where we want it, but then we shame ourselves for wanting it. If we have a loving relationship, we shame ourselves for having a loving relationship with it. So I kind of just started to study that. What was the mindset behind people who were really struggling and who were stuck in the struggling phase? What was really keeping them stuck? Because if you really look at it, there's so many resources that's available around us, and for free too. You can go on YouTube or just Google some of these things, and there are books, podcasts, classes, all those things available. But no one is really making the effort to educate themselves on what they don't really know. And it's not that they don't want to, it's just that they don't know how it's going to really help them. So we want to create a generational wealth. We want to have growth for ourselves. But then what's holding us back from taking that next step to educate ourselves and actually signing on the dotted line, right? Okay, I'm going to start this and I'm going to do this for myself and for my family. And one thing that I've noticed that we do with money is that we remove the emotions out of money. And I was like, why do we do that? Why everything that we do around money is emotionally fueled? Like instant gratification, for example. Amazon gives us a Christmas every 2 days, because you receive a package that you paid for, right?
Uh-huh.
And why is it that then we like, and then there's buyer's remorse with that. You're like, oh, I shouldn't be buying it, but I feel like shit. I had a really bad week or whatever was going on. I need to get this for myself. It's going to make me feel better. So I started studying more of the mindset, and then correlating, why are we asked to remove the emotions from the money? And that's where the trigger is, right? Because we're like, okay, money is not an emotional thing. You should not have an emotional attachment to it. And that's where, when we don't have an emotional attachment to something, we don't know how to build and grow on it. And when we put emotion in something, we also look at where is that emotion coming from, because there's positive emotion and there's negative emotion. And if we have a negative relationship with money, it's coming from a negative emotion, something that we have gone through in our past. For immigration, like people who have migrated here, people who have gone through slavery, people who have gone through divorce, people who have lost their businesses or filed bankruptcy or any of those things. Those are all the emotional aspect of it that took place on the external level. And we have a hard time connecting the dots. Where is that trauma coming from that's actually holding us back from creating the abundance that we want in our lives? So that was something that I focused on, educating myself and connecting the dots. And I started doing a lot of just workshops online, free workshops, to kind of see, like, where is the mindset, and are people willing to talk about the emotional shame and guilt around money? So I kind of just took all that time to really learn from, like, my own case studies, instead of just looking at a study somewhere else, but educating myself from actual my audience, the workshops that I was doing, asking them questions. And that kind of just took out from there. And I was like, okay, that's what I want to do from now on. I want to speak on financial trauma and really help people see and connect the dots, how it's affecting their relationship with money and their growth.
Okay, okay. I dig that. I think that's awesome because especially, in certain areas and definitely in the black community. Also, we need money to sort of survive. We need to put food on the table. We need to pay the bills. We need to do this and stuff like that. And sort of, what was some advice for some people because and like I just mentioned, in the black community, we spend the most, but sort of own the least, and also with money, it also becomes a bigger issue though. So, what's some best financial advice uh, for just having money? And like you said, we necessarily don't have that good relationship with money. It's always like you said, buyer's remorse or other things.
Well, as you mentioned, like we like to spend a lot of money, right? And it's more apparent in the black and brown communities. And if you really look at the history of it, where we come from and the oppression and everything that we have gone through, even having the basic stuff used to be really hard for a lot of people. And then we live in a society right now where consumerism and capitalism is at its highest, pretty much. Stuff has gotten cheaper, but everything else that brings us the quality of life is more expensive, such as education, medical, healthy living, preventative care in any way is more expensive, right? So we try to do whatever we can to afford what's going to improve our status in our way. We think that looking better and will make us feel better on an internal level. So we spend that money, right? Okay, I'm going to get these new shoes and it's going to make me look of someone who's of importance. New clothes is going to make us do that. I mean, a perfect example is for people who set the goal of getting healthy and going to the gym. The first thing they do is they go buy all this merchandise. And they on the external level, you prepare yourself to go to the gym. Whether you ever make it and do the work or stick with it is the later part of it. And sometimes it never really happens, right? So it's a status thing. We prepare ourselves externally for something better. But sometimes that's where it actually stops. We don't do any more than that. We get the look of it to prepare ourselves, the appearance of it, but then the deeper side of it, we don't have the resources or we haven't tried to seek the resources. So that's where it stops for a lot of people because spending on things is just so much easier. But if we really look at why am I wanting to look at this? Why am I wanting to buy this? Because of course the advertisements and all of that stuff. But if we look deeper, like what is this really going to create for me? If I'm externally creating an avatar for me, what is it something internally that I want to fix? And it's most of the time the inside that we are trying to fix is our own value and what's going to create that value. Appearance is an easy way to do it, but then we stop there. We don't go take it a step further. Like, okay, let me find more people who appear like me on the internal level, who are on the same journey as me on the internal level. Let me connect with those people and see what they're doing to grow. And we hold ourselves back from taking that next further step because internally our mind is telling us that, oh, we're not there yet to be in that crowd. So I'm preparing myself externally, but I don't know when I'm going to be ready to get there. And it's a mental block because of the conditioning that we have gone through, because of what we have been told over and over. This is your lane. This is you are destined to struggle because your ancestors have struggled. I'm a migrant. You know, my family moved here when I was 12 years old, and we moved from Fiji. And the cycle was you just work hard around the clock, translate hours to dollars, and try to make a better living. And we didn't seek the resources because that was the conditioning. Your identity is a hardworking employee. And we hold so much pride in that. I am a hardworking employee. For me, it was like, I don't want to be a hardworking employee only. I want to grow and become bigger. How can I do that? And that was the conditioning that I have to break free from. I'm the probably the only one of my kind who's doing a lot of the things that I am doing out there, but that was my conditioning that I needed to break free from, to be like, I want to go after and be in the crowd and on the table with people who are internally seeking like I am, who are wanting to break the generational curse like I am. So those are some of the things. Anyone who is looking to rebuild their lives, who's wanting to do more, surround yourself with those who have broken free, who have gone through that breakthrough, their struggle, and who have flipped the switch on their mindset and their lifestyle and their earning and all of those other things that go in play.
Okay, okay. You just stole the words out my mouth when you said generational curses, and I think that's what it all boils back down to. And you mentioned how just spending money just to feel good and just to look good. Oh, I don't, and I think that's a mechanism just to cover up what's wrong deep down. And like how you said, sometimes we just don't maybe take it to the next level to figure out some things though. But I think that's a really great point, though. Another thing I want to talk about, though, because I've been hearing it lately. I don't know how true it is, though, but they've been talking about the U.S. dollar and how valuable that it would be
The
in the
breaks
next
and all
coming
of that.
weeks or so. Yeah, can you talk about that more? If
Yes,
you
yes.
know.
So that is still brand new. BRICS is brand new, and people who don't know, BRICS is pretty much the British government, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia. They are China. They are all coming together to have to do trading in a different currency than U.S. dollars, because U.S. dollars is really expensive for a lot of countries. If you really look at it, U.S. dollar is really strong. So if your debt is in US dollars, you owe a higher amount, and your earning is in your own currency. So that means when you are paying this debt in a different currency that's way higher, you are having to pay a higher amount. And what it's doing is it's emptying out these countries internally. It's gutting them slowly because they're not able to bring in that kind of revenue for their own country. A lot of countries after COVID, they had they have high poverty rates, and they have some of the countries have even defaulted on their loans, which of course brings their currency even lower. So what they're saying is that US dollar is monopolizing and it's dominating, and it's kind of bullying us, and we want to get out of this bullying. If I want to finance something for my country, I want it to be in my own currency because my earning is in my currency. So that's what it's doing, and they want to devalue the dollar. How fast it's going to go and the large scale impact of it, I mean, it's going to, when the dollar is devalued, the inflation rates go up, and it affects everything financially. The stock market, the economy, all of that is going to be impacted. um, but until that happens, we're really not going to be able to know to what extent it's going to impact us. And that's why it is so important that we are paying attention to what's happening on the global level. We are so distracted by the petty stuff that takes place, like what is that? Bathrooms for transgender and LGBTQ rights, and oh, someone got shot in this neighborhood, homeless crisis. All those are, yes,
The
those
Donald
important.
and also the Donald Trump, him
Yes,
getting, so many distractions though. Talk.
yes, yes. So what's happening with the Kardashians? Like with celebrities having an affair with, like, so the news is like not really showing us the bigger scale, what's happening on the bigger scale, until it's like knocking on our door and we're like, oh my
Mhm.
God, we didn't see this coming. How do I prepare for it? Well, it's too late. The storm is here. And
Hmm.
you gotta be prepared for it before the storm gets there.
You took the question out of my mouth though, because that was my next question. How do people prepare for a situation like that when you say inflation definitely will rise is when the U.S. dollar is just no value, and people don't understand the bigger scale of that.
um, when something is really new, you don't really know how to prepare for it, and it's kind of just following the experts who know more than you do about the economy, about the money, and all of those things. And you got to listen to all these different people. What are they saying? And what is the same message that's coming out from all the white noise around you? That's what you got to look at. And people sometimes, out of fear, they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna take my money out of the bank and I'm gonna sell my stocks. I'm gonna take all this action. Well, you don't know how those markets are going to be impacted. When you are a powerful country like the U.S., you got to know that it's not gonna go down overnight just because there's a trade in a new currency. It's going to shake things up, and that first shake is like almost an earthquake, right? Like that first shake is really impactful, and you're like, oh my god, all this is gonna happen, and then it has a ripple effect, right? And people, when they react out of the fear without the proper information, proper education, then you are kind of hurting yourself, right? So, how do we prepare for this? Educate yourselves. What does this really mean? Is it a good thing for our country or is it not? Sometimes things what we see on the outside, like if you see just a fin in the ocean coming towards you, you don't know if that's the real shark or if it's the child with the fin strapped to their back. you know so how do you, like, educating yourself and getting ready for it? Like, you know where you are, what your assets are, what places they're in, and if the dollar devalues, how is it going to impact these areas? Educate yourselves on how the government is going to step in to make sure the economy is going to keep moving forward without the shakeup, right? During the pandemic, everyone was so fearful, like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. Everyone's losing jobs, things are shutting down. But then the government stepped in and they're like, hey, so if you are losing your job, you lost your job, you don't have to pay your rent, or your mortgage payments are frozen for a year or two. And here's extra cash, here's stimulus money to help you get by and whatever it is, right? So if you really look at it, yes, all that happened, but all of a sudden we were all kind of rich too. you know and what did people do? They didn't use that money to plan and set aside an emergency funds or any of that. They went and bought cars, and then when the gas price went up, then everyone was complaining. They spent all this money on all the things that they wanted that they couldn't have before, right? And then when the mortgage starts coming in, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I need more help. What do I do? Where do I go? So planning for that time is like, okay, what can I plan for? How can I prepare myself? Looking for opportunities during these times too. You can leverage both of those things. One of the things that we see a lot that's coming up is the AI stuff. How is that really impacting the business world? Because people are saying, like, oh, these robots, all these things are going to replace you. Well, someone's got to be able to program those things, right? The companies are looking into AI, but the human brain has to do the research, put the information in, and create that AI, right? AI is just at the fingertips of us right now. But before, it's been used in movies for a very long time. But now regular people have access to it, and it's like that magic dust. And but we don't know how to use it because it has that power that we want, but are we ready for that power, kind of thing, right? So a lot of people are looking at it, they're hearing it, but they're not taking the time to educate themselves. Is there an opportunity in this? How can I get my hands on that new opportunity that this is going to create for us?
Mm. I dig it. I love it. I love what you're saying. I definitely do. And why is that though? So over the pandemic though, people would rather buy new Mercedes Benzes and new this instead of save or try to finance a new business or something like that.
Well, it's our lack of education, our lack of understanding. It's easy to buy stuff because it's so cheap, right? You go to the store, there's a sale all the time. It's consumerism. That's what we thrive on because it's so easy to make us feel better. Like you just go buy something and it's going to make us feel better. And how do we break free from that? Is we have to really dig down within us. Why do I want it? Why do I want the things that someone else has? Or how does it make us feel? And it goes back to our own financial traumas. Did we grow in a place where money was scarce, and we didn't get what we wanted? So what is the first thing you're going to do when you have a lot of money? You're going to get the things that you wanted to have.
Hmm.
And then how long do you really enjoy it? Like a month, 2 3 months, and then it starts to sink in, like, oh, I'm paying so much in the car payment, so much in the interest, and so much for gas, so much for insurance, and all those things start to sink in. What we don't know is the issue with consumerism is that we don't look the long term effect of it, and we don't evaluate, like, okay, where can I put this money that's going to give me a higher return? So we instantly go for instant gratification. We love it when it's new and we have it. And then it starts to sink in, like, okay, I've actually created a money hole and it's draining me drip by drip. So we
Okay. Oh,
really we need to really evaluate, if I want something new, why do I really want it? Is it something that I need, or is it something that's going to make me feel better and look better?
hmm. Hmm.
And then the
I,
other side of it, that much money, that amount of monthly payment on a new car, like say $500, and then $200 in insurance and another 300 in gas. So that's like what? $1,000, right? What
yeah.
if I invested this $1,000? How fast will it grow? Can I wait 2 years to buy this new car? And excuse me, and it'll pay for itself. Right now, you have invested it, and you're not going to have a payment. So we don't evaluate that. We don't do a lot of research because it's so easy to qualify for loans.
Yeah.
We don't take
I,
into account that when you start paying for it, what is it going to look like?
mhm. You're right. You're right. You said one thing that was so interesting on financial trauma and how a lot of people would spend more because they maybe had less growing up. They didn't maybe sort of get what they want. So is that the case more so because as you see in certain maybe different neighborhoods or certain situations where people who grew up were fortunate and they had a lot of money and they had everything. So not necessarily they go out spending for enjoyment or for just to feel good. They more so spend on what they need and not more so what they want, and versus to uh when you grew up and maybe didn't have money, or you grew up poor, or you grew up in certain environments, you spend more money better, just for to feel good because you didn't have it more so, growing up, or your parents didn't have
Well, it also goes back to the conditioning of it. If you really look at it in brown and black communities, we don't discuss money openly. It's a very private thing. It's between mom and dad, or it's mostly on dad to figure it out, and mom will help him some way, right? So it's a very private thing, and it's so intimate, like we don't even want to talk about it. But then what we also do is when the kids want something, it's like, oh, well, we can't afford it right now. Well, then that's a mindset that we carry forward, right? Like, oh, my parents always said that we couldn't afford it, so money was scarce. But now that I have money, I want to go buy it because I can now afford it for myself, right? But if money was, so people who grow up in an environment where there is money and they talk about money and they discuss about money, it's an education in itself. It's like brainstorming, right? It's like different ideas. Okay, this is how many bills we have. We want to plan a vacation for here. What's the budget looking like? Where do we want to go? Like, we don't discuss those things. We don't sit down and plan the long-term impact of it. It's so easy to qualify for things to get it. And when we get it, then we look at the additional cost. right? Like if you buy a cheaper car, your maintenance is cheaper, your insurance is cheaper, changing your tires is cheaper, it takes less gas, right? But the image that we chase after, it comes with a bigger price tag. You may have qualified for the loan, but the price tag personally outside of that payment is way higher. And because we don't discuss it, we don't have the knowledge, and we can't provide that guidance, right? And we carry everything that comes from our childhood. So if our parents never talked about money, we don't have that conversation with ourselves either. Forget about having it with your partner or anyone else. We don't have that conversation with our own selves. Like, oh, I want this. How can I get it? Not getting it now, but how can I plan to get it? What do I need to grow? And another thing is, like, a lot of my clients will come to me and they'll be like, I want to reduce my debt. So I always start by looking at their finances, and I tell them, well, the expenses that you have aren't really outrageous. What you're lacking is your income. You need to add an income stream so you can make the ends meet, because right now you're supplementing it with your credit cards, and you're paying 20%, 25%, 30% interest on it. And that's another thing that people don't really pay attention to. It is so easy to qualify for credit cards, and we swipe it so easily, but in the long run, it's just a loan that you are paying 25% interest on. I mean, when the inflation went up to 9%, we were all crying. It was so bad. But we don't have an issue with that when it comes to credit cards, and we're paying 20% interest on it. It's the conversation that we need to have with ourselves. Like, where is our spending habit coming from? Have we educated ourselves? What is my relationship with money? I had a client one time, and I always do an assessment, and I ask them the financial stress that they are experiencing, how would they describe it? And she said, psychological terrorism. And I was all like, ooh, that is wow. And so I asked them to elaborate on it, and she was all like, it terrorizes my mind every waking minute of the day, because I'm constantly thinking about my next bill that needs to be paid. Anything that has to do with money, I'm worried about it. Getting groceries, paying the bills, whatever it is. Even if I can make it, I'm still stressing about it, because there are all these things that I want to do. And when I have the lack of it, I'm not really paying attention to, I don't have clarity of where it's going. Some of my clients will say, I made $200,000 last year. I don't know where my money went. And that they are psychological terrorism, financial stress. I can see it. You are constantly stressed about it, whether you have it or you don't have it.
You're right about that. You are so right about that. And I'm sitting back. I'm learning so much, from this conversation, in general, about money, and just because I think that one thing that really spoke to me and really sort of hit home is because, in the black community, growing up sometimes where my mom was, single mom, she had to go to work and raise all four kids, and sometimes she didn't have it. So I see myself, because I remember at one time it was where she couldn't afford these tickets to go to a wrestling event, and she was like, okay, I get them for you, but it was around like my birthday, so I had got some money for my birthday. So for a long time, I wanted to go, and I wasn't able to go. So I bought the tickets, for myself. So I get I definitely get what you're saying. So growing up more so in an environment where it's like, money was kind of like, we had to, stretch it out and make it, last. So when you do have money and, you're not used to having so much money, you just go out and just spend it instead of putting it in a place where you can earn that money back and stuff like that. So I definitely agree. One thing I want to ask you before we move on, what's your thoughts on Bitcoin, and what's the future look like with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
That is just another form of currency. We are eventually all going to move into the digital era. It's just another phase of it. And the best way I can describe it is that when we were, if you look at like back in the day, how they did trading and all of that, they traded in silk and gold and silver and gems. Those were that was their currency back then. And sometimes it was trading in spices or whatever, right? Like different countries, whatever their asset was, they traded in that. Then we moved into, different types of trading, and then the dollars came in. So dollars are the newest currency that we have, right? But that's slowly moving away too. What's the next one? We went from cash to card, and then it's going into like, okay, we can trade in this digital form of money. What does that look like? And when people talk about investing, the easiest way that I can simplify is and explain is that just imagine it's a buffet, and there are all these different uh, delicious stuff and options in front of you, and you can have it all. And so you take a plate and you go in and you look at everything and you're like, okay, I'm going to get everything. So you pile your plate up with a little bit of everything and you sit down to eat. Now you can't truly taste any of it because the flavors have mixed in, the food has somewhat mixed in. But if you went in and you said, I really like pie, so I'm going to take a small slice of this pie and I'm going to taste it. And you're like, oh, I actually really like it. Now I can have more of that because I know the different flavors in it, what it feels like, and all of that, right? Investing is the same way. When you look at all these different options in investment, real estate, stock market, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, all those things, study what you like. What is it that makes sense to you? And look at the emotional attachment to it. Are you wanting to jump on the bandwagon because you're thinking it's going to make you rich overnight? Or are you wanting to plan for it? Um, I will tell you about myself. I love real estate and I love stocks. Real estate has I have a personal attachment to real estate, and the reason is because being an immigrant, we have been uprooted so many times that I am very attached to having that that foundation. This is my home. I own this. No one can take it from me unless I do something to allow them to take it, like not making the mortgage and whatnot. So I love real estate, and that's my emotional attachment behind it. Why do I love stocks? Because there's all these different options, and there are, I can put in a little bit, I can put in a little bit more, and I can have different kinds of portfolios. There's different ways I can invest in the stock market, right? Some people like day trading, and that's their thing. I don't like day trading, it's too stressful for me. So pick what you like and your understanding level of it. If you understand it, how it moves, then study it more, because then it's going to allow you to grow the information and be intrigued about it instead of feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes when we try to follow, for example, the diet trends, the fad diets and all those things, right, we forget to study our own body and our own mindset and our own traumatic state that we are going through, and we try to follow these fad diets and we fail because it's not for us, it's for someone else, it works for them. Figure out what's going to work for you. Learn about yourself, your relationship with money, your trauma, where is it coming from, what do you really want to have, what kind of generational wealth do you want to create, and what is that going to look like, how much more resources and information do you need, how much education do you need, and dive into that one area. Focus on that one thing first and then move
Okay.
on to the next one.
Okay. I got you. I got you. I love it. I love it. I love it. What keeps you motivated? What inspires you?
Ah, gosh. Just seeing people struggle financially. And what really got me was in one of my workshops when it was a workshop that I was doing for single moms trying to rebuild their lives. And there was this one woman in there, and she said that she has been divorced for 15 years, but she has never been able to rebuild her life. And I was like, whoa, what happened here, right? Because I've gone through it too, but it took me 2 3 years to get back, even have more than what I lost, right? So it was like, okay, what got them stuck in that struggling part? Because the mindset around it, like, oh, I lost what I had, so now I need someone else to help me rebuild it. So there was that trauma. And then not just that, what if I rebuild it and someone else comes in and takes it away from me? Then I'm losing it again. So the fear kept her in that struggling phase of it. Like, okay, I've struggled before, so I'm going to struggle again. And it didn't allow them to rebuild it. So I started studying that, of like, okay, what's going on here? And that really motivated me and inspired me. I'm like, okay, I want to educate people on what other people are not talking about. Financial trauma. Why is it such a huge thing? Just like anything else, any emotional trauma that needs healing, financial trauma needs healing. And we need to change our language around it. We need to change our relationship with money. We need to show more gratitude, and we need to show it more love. We need to take the guilt and shame out of it. And we need to stop saying that people who have more are evil. The root of all evil is not money. And we need to change that relationship, how we look at it, our mindset around it. So then the more I started talking about it and coaching it, it just kept growing from there. And the more I do it, I just love it, because it's just another form of energy, but it's on an
Okay.
internal level. But it
Yeah.
so much. There's so much weight in it. And it's a necessity. We know it. We want it, but we want it like with a distance, right? It's like, okay, I want it, but wait, stay away, because you're gonna make me not a good person, or I don't know if I deserve it. So I'm just gonna take a little bit, and then the rest is for someone else. No, if you want it, go for it. Go for it with love and gratitude.
Yeah, just go for it. Definitely, just go for it. One thing I want to touch on before we wrap it up. You're a marathon runner and stuff like that. How did that begin for you? And you're also continuing that now.
Yeah, so marathon running is that's been a journey in itself, and the reason I started was I was just like, I need to, and that was again, I need to do more, and I need to be more purposeful. So I would pick a charity that's going to help someone, and I'd do like a 5K, right? And I'll feel good about myself, like I got a workout in, and I helped a nonprofit organization. And it was someone, and it just started growing. I started running more and more, and someone asked me like, have you thought of running a marathon? And I'm like, no, that's for crazy people. It takes 30 minutes to drive that distance. So I'm like, nope, yeah, no, they invented cars. I'm good. And then I was all like, why shouldn't I do it? So I tried it, and it did something mentally and physically for me. And what the amount of commitment that it takes and the training that goes into it, that really showed me that if I don't show up for myself, I have no one else to blame. So if I drop dead, or I pass out halfway, or I get injured because I didn't train, I didn't look at my nutrition, I didn't do the training, I didn't get the right stuff that I needed, then it's gonna I'm not gonna be successful. So it did more on the internal level for me. But this was something that I was seeing on the outside. What it showed me was that I actually have strength, and I'm brave enough and courageous enough to do something and try something that I've never done before. So that was my motivation, that I think I can push hard, but I know I can push harder. So that's
Yeah.
what my marathon journey did for me. So that's what I do now. I make sure that I train, I go in, and I try to beat my time every time I'm running a race. And anytime I'm out, even training for it, it does something mentally. And I get so fueled up. I'm like, okay, what other area of my life can I show up in this way with that kind of dedication and that kind of commitment? All of us need that in our life. I'm not saying that you need to go out and run, but we need that level of commitment and dedication for ourselves. And sometimes we have to do something externally that shifts our mindset that, oh, I can do this. I can show up. Do I like waking up at 4:30 to go to the gym at 5 a.m.? No. I want to be snuggled in. But that's the promise and the commitment that I make to myself. So I'm going to show up because no one else is going to do it for me.
Hey, I dig that. I dig that. You definitely got to show up for yourself. You had me laughing when you just said you really didn't want to try marathon running, and you said no, they got cars for that. I thought that was really funny, but that's dope. That's dope. Prima Kuma, I appreciate you for coming here on the 11:30 podcast. And before you go, you have some latest books out, right, for my listeners and viewers to check out.
Yes, yes. So I have a gratitude journal that is on Etsy and on Amazon that you can buy. And if anyone wants a simple worksheet to identify their relationship with money um, and create a new empowering relationship with money, they can actually send me an email and I will send them a copy of it and they can fill it out themselves. My email address is priya@pivotmyprofit.com. And I also have classes coming up that goes through like four sessions that take you through all of the different steps of rebuilding an empowering relationship with money and creating that empowering money story for yourself that's going to fuel you. So reach out to me and I will be happy to send you these documents over and help you grow. So yeah, definitely. And you can also visit my website. It's pivotmyprofit.com. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I do a complimentary 15-minute session. And I tell people it's only 15 minutes. So bring a problem with you so I can give you some breakthrough ideas and things that you can take action on right away.
Okay, that's dope. That's dope. You hear that, everyone, man, for listening and watching. Everyone is listening and watching. All the links will definitely be down below. Prima, thank you so much for coming. I learned a lot, for real. This was a really great session. I thank you for coming on the podcast show. Would love to have you again. But before you go, you have any questions and shout outs, anything you'd like to say?
No questions. I just want to thank you for putting this together. I enjoyed myself here talking about financial trauma and everything money. And yeah, and if there's anyone who would like to get a breakthrough and really identify maybe their financial trauma free, please reach out. And I hope you really enjoy your day today.
Hey, you got it. You got it. Thank you so much, Prima Kuma, for coming here on the 11:30 podcast. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, wrap up the show. We got more, the WTF moment and more, man. For real. Stick tight. You're listening and you're watching to the 11:30 podcast. You did.
TV is more than cable for less than cable. More unexpected plot twists.
Ooh.
Less unexpected fees. More committing to new shows.
Ooh.
Less committing to an annual contract. More being held in suspense. Less being held on hold. More modern. More simple. More than cable for less than cable. Try YouTube TV for free.
Yo, we back here on the 11:30 podcast. Appreciate everyone sticking with me throughout the break. Pryia Kumar, thank you for coming through here on the 11:30 podcast show this week. It was a great time having you on. Man, I learned a lot. I hope all my listeners and viewers learned a lot, man, about financial strategies on ways to save money, make your money grow, and, also about the dollar bill and the future of it here in the United States, man. It's just great conversation, for real. All the links will be down below so you can get at Pryia Kumar and definitely follow her and get some more financial strategies tips, man. For real. But we're going to move on here on the podcast show, man. You know what time it is. It's time for the WTF moment of the week, you guys. Yes, WTF moment of the week. Yo, man, this 7th grade middle schooler right now has been called the hero. As you can see in this video right here, man. I'm going to stop talking in just a bit so you can just hear this video out, though. But Yo, man, the seventh grade middle school, he was on the bus and he noticed something that was weird with the bus driver. The bus driver, was fanning herself. She was getting a little high, and come to find out, the bus driver had fainted. And on the bus, it's a bunch of kids, man, a bunch of students on this bus, and this, heroic young man just got up there and, not only saved the bus driver, but also saved everyone else that was on this bus, man. And that's going to be something I know that young man is going to be, that's not going to forget, and that's going to be, he going to remember for the rest of his life, man. So when I saw this, I was like, WTF, man. This is definitely going to be a WTF moment. Check this out.
It's the dramatic school bus video that's earning this youngster nationwide accolades.
A seventh grader in Michigan is earning praise for his heroic actions on a school bus.
The middle school student being hailed as a hero.
The video begins as the bus driver starts feeling faint. There are 60 students on the bus. First, she fans herself with her cap. Then, radios headquarters. But before the driver can pull over, she loses consciousness. That's when 13-year-old Dylan Reeves jumps into action and saves the day. He runs forward, grabs the wheel, and applies the brakes. Cool as a cucumber, he brings the bus to a halt.
Someone call 911. Now.
Here he is in slow motion. You can see how calm Dylan is the whole time. He even tries to put the bus in park. Now he's getting the hero's treatment at his family's home outside Detroit, and from lots of others too.
I am so proud of Dylan.
The school superintendent honored this modest young man at a news conference with his mom, dad, and sister.
To do something like this just fills my heart.
We got a little hero.
Dylan says he wants to be a fireman someday, but he's already a hero.
WTF all the way, man. My guy is a hero. Definitely a hero, man. I'm about to wrap it on up and head on out of here, you guys, man. Been a great show. All the links will be down below. So you can definitely get at my awesome guest that was here on the 1130 podcast this week. But you guys, man, don't forget to follow the 1130 podcast on all social media platforms. Follow the 1130 podcast on Twitter at the 1130 podcast. Like the 1130 podcast on Facebook. If you haven't done so this entire episode, man, definitely hit the subscribe button down below. Follow the 1130 podcast on TikTok and on Instagram at the 1130 podcast _ man. I'm always excited. It's been a great show. Thank everyone for tuning in to some amazing episodes that I had last week. 2 bonus episodes. Actually, I dropped 2 episodes last week with Marsha. She's the host of the Special Needs Parents podcast, and also my guy George P. Brooks, who's a great mental health advocate and great entrepreneur and everything he do. The CEO of Meta Association. So it was great having them on. Commission Talk was dope last week, man. I couldn't stay the whole week, man. I think it was going on by like 2 hours. I had to roll out. But you guys, man, later on today is Wednesday. I will be live, man. Live episode of Talk Pro Wrestling. Commission Talks, man. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna be talking about some favorite backlash moments. We're going to be talking a little bit about the XFL championship predictions, man, and how everybody thoughts on the season, because I thought it was amazing, man. Just a little bit more, man. So definitely tune in for Commission Talks this week, man. Great show. Might head on out of here. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Give all the glory to God, man. Won't he do it? Yo, it's your man Dre, a.k.a. Dre on Wheels. I'm out.